Should we have a look to see what's in the papers? Dawn's shaking her head. I wonder why.
Because we have the brilliant journalists and broadcasters Claire Muldoon and Andy Jones with us, and one of them, Claire Muldoon, is already pilfering the baubles.
What are you talking about? We've been teasing this for weeks, Dawn.
In front of the elf on the shelf.
The elf on the shelf, which is...
Didn't do anything. Really
She's flashing her baubles at you, and it's still only 7:15 in the morning.
Look, you've made Cameron blush.
Honestly, I know.
You've made her blush.
Bit warm now.
Andy isn't blushing, though. Right, where are we going to start? Should we start with some doom? You can be our newspaper Grinches this morning. Claire, Daily Mail, front page. Economy is doomed.
Yeah, well, there's no doom and gloom with Muldoon, but today with Labour, I think there might be. The Mail is leading with economy heading for worst of all worlds. I mean, it is the Mail. They want to be quite anti-Labour, let's be honest. But there is truth, actually, in this headline. We are heading for recession, there's no doubt about it. The impact on small and medium-sized businesses with this employer's hike in national insurance contributions. I know local firms that are, £120,000 a year worse off. That's almost 2 full-time equivalents. What are they going to do? And with the Angela Rayner's new laws for bringing new Labour in, Labour workers, it's going to be very difficult for employers to get rid of rubbish staff who can't work properly, who want to work from home, they've got the right to now, and can actually activate their sick days immediately from starting work. Well, good luck with that. I'm a freelancer, not that there's anything to go by or whatever, but I'm only saying if I don't work, I don't get paid.
Yeah.
Therefore, I'm very rarely ill. And as much as it would be lovely just to say, I'm not feeling very well, then, it doesn't really work like that in the real world. And I think Labour have forgotten what the real world is like for real people to live in. And globally, it is a catastrophic, enormous, rubbish hole that we're in at the moment. Look what happened in Germany at the Christmas market. Look what's happening across the pond in America. Look what's happening on our own doorstep. And all Labour seem to be able to do is snatch money any which way they can and not keep their word. I'm sorry, I've had enough of it. It's a complete omnishambles, and I think Starmer has to go.
Well, there was that story over the weekend, Andy, but, I mean, if you're not a worker and you're a pensioner, you're in even bigger trouble, according to the Eye today.
Yeah, Labour believe dozens of MPs will revolt against the government's refusal to compensate WASPy women. And they think as many as 100 backbenchers are deeply unhappy. This is within Labour. Labour insiders surprised at the extent of criticism from newbie MPs. These are the ideologues, the fresh-faced ones, the ones who maybe aren't as tactically political as they might be. Neil Duncan-Jordan MP says he's dumbfounded, angry and disappointed at the decision over the WASPy women. But the biggest problem again here is, as Claire was alluding to, is Labour have made promises that they can't possibly keep. It's not the fact that they're not compensating these women, it's the fact that they've boldly said that they're going to compensate these women, and then they've absolutely rown back at it 5 minutes in. And they're in a position now where hundreds of their own MPs are deeply unhappy. We talk about the economy is doing dreadfully at the moment. The ridiculous situation where we've got 9 million people who are economically inactive, and yet the sort of lower paid jobs that those people might go back into are now not available because of the national insurance hikes. And so we've got everything from
the rise in minimum wage.
Yeah, absolutely. And you've got this position where everyone from chemists to the considerate constructor scheme who manage building sites saying that so many of these low-wage jobs are going to simply disappear. And so we can have more and more people on benefits. We can have more and more people who are taking from the economy rather than giving.
And, of course, these new MPs could well lose their seats in a few years' time if they're so annoyed with Labour.
That was, especially over the weekend in the papers, that was a big thing. A lot of the grassroots Labour MPs that were voted in are actually quite frightened now that they will not remain in their seats come the next election in 2028.
Yeah, and especially as many of them, for the first time, are in more rural constituencies.
Yes.
And the way Labour have treated the farmers, they have definitely...
And Miliband's net zero rubbish.
22 billion on carbon capture, all of that money for climate change, supporting African farmers but not supporting British farmers.
Charity starts at home.
It feels like they're obsessed with ideology and dogma rather than reality. It feels like it's entirely drawn up on whiteboards in Westminster rather than actually going out there and seeing what we need at ground level. If you got, even now, if you got high streets, half of it's shut up, half of it's completely out.
But that's not. I wouldn't put the blame at Labour.
Yeah,
but I wouldn't put that at the foot of the Labour Party as blame. People's shopping experiences have completely changed now.
No, I
think that's
that.
why the high streets have gone down. More out-of-town shopping areas and more online shopping has been done. But I think we need to get independence back. I think we need to get rural communities back. I think we need to get communities back. And we can only do that by underpinning social activities like public libraries. I mean, Labour should be sorting out communities, I think, instead of trying to get Mandelson in as the US ambassador to the UK and, you know, all of these ideologues. And I think, for starters, he should be at home. He should be at number 10 instead of flying off everywhere. It's horrific.
Well, you wouldn't want to be Labour looking at any of the front pages today, really. But the Times, which is sort of like more middle of the road than it used to be honest with you. I mean, economic outlook is frustrating. It says Labour. I mean, Labour admitting that it's not actually, you know, been the best honeymoon period for them in the world.
What can they do, though? What is the answer? To replace Starmer? I don't know. We know the money's not there, and it's not about the 22 billion black hole. I would say they need to have, like Attlee did, you know, concise, pure economic results and economic answers to what we're going through now. There doesn't seem to be any influence or any intelligence or any newness.
In fairness to Labour, though, they've been in power 6 months, and they are constantly banging on about fixing the foundations of the economy, whatever that means. And perhaps there just hasn't been enough time yet to see proof of their methods. Is that a fair argument?
Certainly they've inherited a horrible headache. You know, Conservatives can argue all they want about how the country should be run, but for 14 years we've had a Conservative government that wasn't even Conservative, one that was extremely high tax, rubbish on policing, rubbish on borders, absolutely everything like that, and they've been left a headache. My view is, again, a lot of the things that they've done, raising minimum wage, national insurance, it's really bad for the economy. I find that a lot of the jobs that they need people to go back into have completely disappeared purely because it's now too expensive to hire people. They've smashed small businesses over the head. And what I was alluding to earlier with the high street is these are going to be increasingly hollowed out because these sort of small business owners are just going to disappear.
Claire, is it a lack of experience, perhaps, in the Cabinet? Not many of them have ever worked in or run a business.
Do you know, Cameron, I think you've hit the nail on the head here because I've always said, I think if you want to be an MP, you need to live in the constituency that you want to support and that you want to represent. And you are there to represent people who vote for you. You are not there to be flown in at behest of the head of the political party that you are a member of or you want to potentially be a member of, and then only for them to make their statistics look OK. And I don't want someone just with a PPE degree. I want someone who's actually got real life experience. Because if you are going... I mean, the role of an MP now, I think, has changed so much. It's almost like a social worker. It's like an economist. It's like everything. When they have their surgeries, if they're working properly, they've got their counsellors and their key workers that feed into what their constituents want. I don't think that's happening. I don't think they know what on earth the electorate actually want within the constituencies, and I don't think they were elected on a mandate that they even knew what they had. There was no manifesto, really. They've not kept to it, have they?
No,
and yet, I think it was they were definitely voted in by proxy against the Conservatives. Everyone wanted rid of the Conservatives.
They wanted change, but not quite the change they were delivered in the end. It's enough to make a saint swear. Talking of which, seamless link there. This is excellent broadcasting, isn't it? The Sun, page 11, Andy. Dickens includes Victorian language, plays woke alert.
Yeah,
not another one.
We see this all the time, don't we? Whether it's books of Roald Dahl. I mean, Enid Blyton's probably got woke alerts now.
Oh, she definitely did.
She's
Noddy is cancelled.
All of them cancelled.
Noddy and Big Ears.
Famous Five.
Audience members were cautioned that an adaptation of the 1839 novel Nicholas Nickleby contained Dickensian slurs. So they were warned before the performance that there would be Dickensian slurs. I'm sure we've never had any Dickensian slurs in the studio here. The woke alert from Bromley Little Theatre, South East London. Last night's Spark Scorn. It also said the play, which sees impoverished Nicholas supporting his mother and sister when his father dies, involved themes of violence, suicide, sexual assault, kidnap, mental illness, and worst of all, sexism.
It's a night out in London.
I know, we are.
Well, that's your night out in London, love. We know about your nights out in London.
With my baubles.
And your baubles. We're running out of time, so we are going to talk about how size matters over Christmas, but we'll do that in the next time.
Oh, right.
Shall we?
We certainly will.